Great conversation there with Andreas. Well, here's a question for you. Within the last few months, have you been sleeping more or sleeping less? Andreas explored this topic recently with a chief scientist about the interesting results of a recent study. Take a look.
Sleep is often the broken element in our health and wellness routines, especially as we process more pressure and more stress in current days and the days to come. Today, we're joined by Tara Youngblood, CEO of Chili Technologies, with some incredible new statistics about the ways that we sleep. Hi, Tara.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I am so intrigued. You have shared with me the Sleepopolis study, which basically lists Virginia as the second highest state, the state with the second highest number of cities ranked for best sleep. And as a Virginian, I am so excited to hear that, but also wondering a few things as it relates to the night's sleep that I've been getting most recently. So tell us a little bit about the study.
Yeah, so the study looked at different cities and about 16 different metrics. And some of those metrics we assume are part of sleep, of how long it takes you to fall asleep or how many hours of sleep you have. But there's also a bunch of metrics that are in there that we don't always think of as part of sleep. So obesity, even food scarcity, median income, those are also all factors. Alcohol consumption, smoking, all of those contribute to that overall sleep outcome. And it's easy to forget that the activities we do during the day really do have a big impact on what we get at night.
That's so interesting. And you mentioned also levers of sleep and how that affects different people at different points in their lives. I know we hear this a lot, especially with women, in different points, especially around the time that they have children or later in life. So what are the levers of sleep?
There's a lot of discrepancies in sleep. Gender issues is definitely one. Age, it changes a lot. The sleep you get as a 20-year-old is not the same as the sleep you'll get as you're 80 or even above 60. Most of the health issues of people 60 and over actually have some sort of sleep comorbidity or are attached to sleep in some form. So it is really important to think about that sleep as we go through our lives. As women, we are kind of stuck with, we have monthly cycles that'll throw off and change our sleep throughout the month. But then there's also pregnancy and menopause and other sort of health things that track us throughout our lives that are going to affect how we sleep. So when we think about our levers, we want to think about, again, what we do during the day does have a big impact when we get into bed at night. And it's easy to go through our day, especially as women. We put our kids, our work, our life, our husbands, everything ahead of what we're going to do by the time we get to that day. And then we want to climb into bed and we have a hard time falling asleep. So if we really don't want to think about when we wake up from sleeping at night, we're going to flip off that switch for sleep, move our bodies outside, get those endorphins, get those things moving. And throughout the day, we really want to manage stress as best as we can, which is always hard, especially in this time frame. But then when we go to sleep, we want to think about some things like light and temperature, because those are what triggers our brains unconsciously to sleep. So if we're on our phone or watching TV or binge watching Netflix, like so many of us are doing, that makes it much harder to fall asleep. So we watch that last Netflix show that we really probably shouldn't have watched, and we turn it off, and then we have a hard time falling asleep. It's not entirely a surprise. So we really want to try to think about what we do for those last 3 hours before we go to sleep. Try to have less electronics in those 3 hours. Try not to eat a lot in those last 3 hours. We're better off to eat much earlier in the day and make sure those last 3 hours. And the one that is very disappointing for most people is alcohol. So alcohol, majority of Americans use it to fall asleep. Unfortunately, it ruins your sleep once you're asleep. So it may help you fall asleep, but that deep sleep, that restful sleep that we're all chasing is actually inhibited by alcohol. It makes us hotter in our metabolism, and that as we work through that in our bodies, it makes it really hard to sleep. So last call for alcohol is usually about 3 hours before we go to sleep. And that is just like the Netflix, a little bit of a buzzkill, I know.
But it sounds like our habits every single day and every single hour really play into that restful sleep at night. So as you mentioned in the study, there's some things that affect us that we don't have as much control over, those different, maybe age or locality or economic status, whatever that may be. But a lot of it sounds like we can control, in the sense that we've got to look at what we put in our bodies, what we do with our bodies throughout the day. And that's so interesting, because I think we somewhat separate the two items, not realizing that we kind of have to overcompensate sometimes. So the technology that you have really helps us to compensate for those things, or to really overcome the challenges that we have with sleeping. Tell us about it.
One of the things we've done during coronavirus is we've donated to healthcare workers on a 1-for-1 program. And remarkably, those first line responders get the worst sleep of all of us. So when you think about bad sleep, those healthcare workers, shift work, short sleep, less than 8 hours. And so part of what we're trying to do with our technology is sort of give hope back. That just like you said, there are levers that you can control, and then there's some that you can't. But on the ones you can control, that temperature plays a really big role. That light is another one. But our product helps you cool at night or during your shift work. So that's one of the reasons why we gave it to those people. Is temperature tells your unconscious mind. So there's no willpower here. This is a set the temperature to a cooler temperature that triggers your body to say, oh, I'm supposed to be in deep sleep now. And you can kind of hack that system. So even if you can't get 8 hours, even if you can't sleep on that normal schedule that everyone says you're supposed to be between 10 and 6, if that doesn't work for you because of what's going on in your life, there are still ways in which you can get good sleep. It does have to be a priority, and you do have to be conscious of those levers, but when you are, you can still get good sleep.
This information is just really game changing for a lot of us. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the community. I can only imagine how much you're helping those who have such an intensive job and such intensive schedules, especially right now. But we are so excited to learn more and are going to be posting more. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
To learn more about Chili Technology and your opportunity for a special 20% offer in the month of June, make sure you go over to our website, WTVR.com/VTM. In the meantime, Virginia This Morning returns right after this break.